The baby's cry cut through the silence of the tiny apartment. It wasn't a loud cry anymore, it was weaker, strained, tired. That scared Lena Carter more than anything. She rushed to the crib, lifting her 6-month-old son, Noah, into her arms. His little fists clenched, his lips trembled, his stomach growled softly, like a whisper of hunger. "Shush, Mama's here, she whispered, though her voice shook. She bounced him gently, pacing the cracked floor. Outside, rain tapped against the window, and a cold draft slipped through the broken frame. The apartment smelled faintly of instant noodles and old laundry. The heater barely worked. The fridge was nearly empty. Lena walked to the kitchen counter and picked up the baby formula tin. It was empty. She turned it upside down, shaking it. Not even a scoop left. Her chest tightened. She opened her wallet. $2.17. That was all. Her rent was overdue by 2 weeks. Her electricity bill was about to be cut off. Her job at the diner had cut her hours. And now, her baby had nothing to eat. Tears welled in her eyes, but she wiped them away quickly. "No crying, Lena," she whispered to herself. "You don't have time to fall apart." Just a year ago, her life had looked different. She had been in love. She had trusted a man named Ryan, charming, confident, full of promises. When she told him she was pregnant, she expected happiness. Instead, his face turned pale. "I'm not ready to be a father," he had muttered. Days later, he stopped answering her calls. Weeks later, he disappeared completely. Lena had never heard from him again. She remembered standing alone in a clinic hallway, holding ultrasound pictures, whispering, "I'll raise him myself." And she had tried. 2 jobs, sleepless nights, endless sacrifices. She skipped meals so Noah could eat. She wore worn-out shoes so he could have warm clothes. But no matter how hard she tried, poverty always chased her. Tonight felt worse than any other night. Noah cried again. Lena sat on the edge of the bed, rocking him. "Mama will fix this," she whispered. "I promise." Her phone buzzed in her hand, old, cracked screen, slow to respond. She remembered a local charity volunteer who had once helped her months ago. Maybe they could help again. She opened her contacts, scrolling quickly with shaky fingers. Her hands trembled so badly that she didn't notice she clicked the wrong number. She started typing through tears. "Hi. I'm sorry to bother you. I'm really struggling right now. My baby needs formula. I just need $35, I'll pay it back. My child hasn't eaten since morning." She stared at the message. Her heart pounded. This felt humiliating, begging, but she looked at Noah's hungry face. And pressed send. Seconds passed. Minutes passed. No reply. Noah whimpered. Lena held him close, whispering, "Please, please." Her phone buzzed. A reply appeared. Wrong number. Her heart sank. She felt embarrassed, foolish, ashamed. She quickly typed back, "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to message you. Please ignore this." She put the phone down. And finally, she broke down crying. "I failed you," she whispered to Noah. "I don't know what to do anymore." She had no idea that this message had just landed on the phone of a man whose wealth could change her life forever. A man who had never planned to care. A man who was about to be pulled into her world by fate. Across the city, in a glass-walled penthouse overlooking the skyline, Alexander Rowan sat alone. He was known as a billionaire investor, powerful, feared, respected. His office was spotless. His suit was flawless. His life looked perfect. But inside, it felt empty. Alexander had spent years building his empire. He controlled companies. He controlled markets. He controlled everything, except his own loneliness. His phone buzzed on the marble desk. Unknown number. He almost ignored it, but the preview caught his eye. "My baby hasn't eaten." He frowned. Probably a scam. He opened it anyway. At first, he typed coldly, "Wrong number," and set the phone down. Minutes later, another message arrived. "I'm so sorry. I didn't mean to disturb you." Something about the tone felt real. Not demanding, not manipulative, just ashamed and desperate. Alexander leaned back in his chair. For a moment, he remembered his childhood. Growing up in a wealthy but emotionally cold household. Nannies instead of parents. Money instead of love. And one distant memory. A woman he once ignored who needed help, and later, he learned she had suffered terribly. Regret tightened his chest. Against his usual nature, he typed, "How old is your baby?" Back in the apartment, Lena froze when she saw the reply. He didn't ignore her. He didn't insult her. He responded. Her fingers trembled as she typed, 6 months, his name is Noah. Alexander stared at the name. Noah. For reasons he couldn't explain, the name lingered in his mind. He typed again. Where are you located? Lena hesitated. Strangers weren't safe. But desperation overpowered fear. She sent her area, vague but enough. Alexander didn't respond. Lena assumed he had changed his mind. 30 minutes later, there was a knock on her door. She hesitated, then opened it. A delivery worker stood outside holding bags. Grocery delivery for Lena Carter. Her hands shook as she accepted them. Inside the bags. Baby formula. Diapers. Baby food. Groceries. Medicine. Lena covered her mouth. Tears streamed down her face. She whispered, "Oh my God." She rushed inside, prepared a bottle, and fed Noah. The baby drank eagerly. Lena watched him like it was a miracle. Then she texted, "I don't know how to thank you. You saved my baby." Alexander replied simply, "Make sure your child is okay." That night, Alexander lay awake. He kept thinking about the hungry baby, the exhausted mother, the fear in her message. He wondered, who is she? How did her life become this hard? Meanwhile, Lena held Noah close and whispered, "A stranger saved us tonight, maybe an angel." Neither of them knew this was only the beginning. Days passed. For Lena, the days were always a blur of work and exhaustion. 2 jobs, endless responsibilities, sleepless nights, but now there was a small flicker of hope. Every morning, she checked her phone before anything else. Every evening, she whispered a prayer, half afraid it would be unanswered. Alexander, on the other hand, had never experienced anything like this. He had managed empires, negotiated multi-million-dollar deals, and solved business crises, yet this small text, this tiny human need, had captured his attention completely. Their messages began cautiously. "Lena. Thank you again. Noah is doing better. Alexander. Glad to hear. Keep monitoring his feeding schedule." Simple, short, practical, but over time, they started to open up. It began with small details. "Lena, Noah laughed today for the first time. I think he recognized me." Alexander. "That's a good sign. He looks healthy?" Lena. "Yes, I've never seen him so happy. Thank you again." Alexander began to ask questions, not because he had to, but because he wanted to know. Alexander. "Do you sleep at all?" Lena. "Sleep? Not really. Nights are long, but I have to stay awake for him." Alexander. "You need rest. You can't take care of him if you collapse." He wasn't just being practical, there was a tone of concern he had never shown anyone before. For Lena, this attention was new and confusing. She had spent years relying on herself, trusting no one. Now, there was this stranger, rich, powerful, and mysterious, who was checking on her daily. Lena. "I don't know why you care so much." Alexander. "I just do. Maybe because you're doing everything alone and somehow, you still manage." Her fingers trembled as she read this message. It was the first time in years that someone had noticed her struggle and acknowledged her effort. Weeks passed, and Alexander suggested, "Alexander, if you're comfortable, maybe we should meet. I can bring Noah's supplies directly and see how he's doing." Lena's heart raced. Lena. I don't know. I've never met someone like you. I don't want to bother you." Alexander. "It's not a bother. I want to help." Finally, she agreed, nervously. The day arrived. Lena dressed carefully, not in designer clothes, just the cleanest outfit she could manage. Noah was dressed in a tiny blue onesie. She kept checking the time, her heart beating like a drum. Alexander was already there when she arrived. His presence was commanding, but not intimidating. His eyes were calm, almost soft. For a moment, Lena panicked. What if he thinks I'm pathetic? she thought. When Alexander saw Noah, his expression softened completely. He crouched down, smiling. Alexander, he looks very healthy. Lena smiled shyly. Lena, thanks to you, he is. Alexander offered nothing more than a quiet nod, but there was a warmth in his eyes that Lena hadn't expected. They talked for hours. Not about money, not about business, about life. Lena shared stories about her childhood, her dreams, and her fears. Alexander spoke cautiously about growing up in a wealthy but cold family. They laughed about small things. They shared secrets they had never told anyone. By the end of the day, Lena felt something she hadn't felt in years, safe. Alexander left that day quietly, but he couldn't stop thinking about her or Noah. Weeks turned into months. Alexander continued helping Lena discreetly. Sometimes it was supplies, other times, advice, sometimes just a message asking how she and Noah were doing. But Alexander noticed something strange. Noah's eyes, his expression, even his tiny gestures reminded him of someone. A memory flashed, a woman from years ago. A boy, her child, abandoned. He decided to investigate discreetly. Alexander approached Lena cautiously. Alexander, I need to ask you something personal about Noah. Lena nodded warily. Alexander, would you be open to a medical test? Just to confirm, just a precaution. She agreed reluctantly. A week later, the results came back. Alexander sat quietly in his office, staring at the report. His hands shook slightly. Noah was his nephew. The reality hit him like a hurricane. Lena had unknowingly been abandoned by Alexander's estranged brother years ago. The man had disappeared without a trace after leaving her pregnant. Now, the child she had raised alone was directly connected to Alexander's family. He felt guilt, pain, responsibility. Alexander, I didn't know. I had no idea. How could this happen? Lena was shocked when he revealed the truth. Lena, so, all this time, you knew? Alexander, I only just found out. I wanted to handle this carefully. For Lena, this was overwhelming. Shock, betrayal, fear. She had built a life on self-reliance. She had survived betrayal before, and now she felt the weight of family secrets crushing her. Lena, I don't know if I can trust you. I've trusted before, and it ended badly. Alexander said nothing. He just watched her, full of remorse, but respectful. The bond they had developed was about to be tested more than ever. Lena's life was supposed to get easier now that Alexander was helping. But fame has a cost. A rival company leaked photos of Lena with Alexander to the media. Headlines screamed, "Billionaire's secret girlfriend? Gold digger scandal? Who is Lena Carter?" Suddenly, Lena's private struggle became public. She read the comments, the assumptions, the rumors. They think I'm using him, she thought, tears streaming down her face. I didn't ask for his money. I just wanted milk for my baby. She considered walking away. Alexander refused to let her suffer. He appeared on social media, addressing the rumors. She didn't ask for my money. She asked for milk for her baby. That's the strongest woman I know. The world listened. The backlash faded. Lena felt a mix of relief and embarrassment. Lena, I can't believe you did that, for me. Alexander, you deserved that respect. You've earned it every day. The two spent weeks rebuilding trust, slowly. They laughed again. They cried again. They learned to face life together. Noah was growing healthy. Lena had a newfound confidence. Alexander was experiencing family, something he had never felt before. Years passed. Lena became a successful entrepreneur. Noah grew up loved and protected. Alexander became the father figure Noah never had. Their bond evolved from trust, to friendship, to love. One quiet evening, sitting on the balcony overlooking the city, Lena whispered, "Lena, do you remember that wrong text?" That night, it changed everything. Alexander smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her face. Alexander, some mistakes are destiny. For the first time, they allowed themselves to feel completely vulnerable with each other. They moved into a home together. Noah had both a mother and father figure. They celebrated birthdays, holidays, and ordinary days, filled with love, laughter, and gratitude. Lena sometimes looked back on that desperate night with tears. Lena, I was at my lowest, and somehow, life gave me the most extraordinary gift. Alexander would hold her close. Alexander, not a gift. A destiny we both earned. Sometimes, a wrong number isn't a mistake. Sometimes, it's a miracle in disguise. A text sent out of desperation had brought love, family, and hope into lives that had known only struggle and loneliness. Lena, Alexander, and Noah, together, finally had the life they deserved.